Welcome to this year's first Small Talk Big Issues session. It's a great pleasure today to have Gilles Paubert with us. Personally, I've had the pleasure of knowing Gilles for many years now. We've worked together in a number of different ways. Gilles is one of the foremost people in Europe in terms of understanding healthcare data. He is the global head of Cegedim Health Data, based here in Paris. Welcome, Gilles, and thank you for being with us.
I'm really happy to have this great opportunity to discuss with you about the usage of the real-world data. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, as always, we have three questions for you, Gilles, and then one final, more personal question. So I'm going to dive right into it. You are, as I've said, really one of the foremost experts in terms of healthcare data. And as we're moving more into digital healthcare, particularly during the COVID epidemic, what opportunities and challenges, in your opinion, does this present in terms of how data can be used better to manage health?
As you mentioned, the COVID situation changed dramatically the usage of the data. And probably one of the most important things is also the acceptance by the healthcare authorities. So now the opportunity is to be able to collect more data and also to be able to transform the data through artificial intelligence to improve the patient pathway. And many opportunities are around the COVID-19 and to monitor the data in the long term. So that's a fantastic opportunity due to the COVID-19 situation. And the European space, because our field of work, as again, our activity is really the European area. And that's definitely a new way for us to collect more data. And also to be able to link the different data. So we're always speaking about interoperability. It's a fantastic opportunity for us. So first is the motivation of our healthcare authority to collect and to use the data, and also to be able to collect more coded and structured data. That's really that's key. But the interoperability is a challenge.
That raises another question. What do you think are the barriers? If we talk about this at a European level, for instance, does there need to be more homogenization of how the data is coded in order to make these kinds of broad comparisons across countries?
Yeah, you're right. We have many barriers. The first one is to have the right access to the right data, because we, due to the evolution of diseases, we are speaking about and more about rare diseases and also oncology. So definitely we need to have a broader access to all the data: secondary care, hospital care, primary care. So first of all is to have the access of the different data sources, and also to be able to link the different data and to give sense. So, and again, coding and structure clinical data, that's key. But first of all, we need to have an access, European access to the different data source. And also the barrier is, and again, the acceptance by the healthcare authorities, healthcare professional, but also the patient. And behind this, we have also to think about GDPR and data security.
Which comes to my next question. In your opinion, what should be done to guarantee, or at least to secure data privacy? You know that people around the world, particularly in Europe, tend to be very sensitive, and rightly so, about the use of their data. So what do you think can be done to secure their privacy?
It's really the big issue, because due to the development of the usage of the data, we have more and more pressure from everywhere on the data security. So, a sign is when we discuss about the contract, it's always about liability. So definitely it's key. And for us, because we have this experience, is to target the anonymization, at the point of care, where the nominative data is really used by the healthcare professional, physician and pharmacist. But the physician, he needs to have the access to the personal data to improve the care of its patient. But it's very important to target this and to anonymize the data at the point of care, because we are speaking about metadata. If we are trying to link different data sources, the system is at risk. But if the target is to aggregate all the data for the patient at the physician level and to anonymize the data at this level by encryption and also to secure the data transmission from the healthcare professional to the healthcare authorities, that's important. But the one again, it's key and more secured to target anonymization at point of care. And we are always thinking about GDPR, but when we think about the physician has also another big objective, is to protect the information of the patient, medical security and also other words. So we have two securities at physician level, GDPR, of course, but also for many, many years, the physician has to protect the data of the patient. So for me, it's we have an IT security system, but also the role of the physician to protect the data. So for us, both security at the physician level.
That's very interesting. So from your perspective, it's not purely an IT issue. It's also a question actually of training physicians, perhaps, and other healthcare providers about the importance of data privacy.
Yeah, you're right. And there is also another big advantage to work with a physician, because we have also to explain and to motivate the patient to share the data. And the physician is probably the right person and the better person to be able to motivate the patient and to explain why it's so important for the patient to share the data. So many objectives and strengths to target the physician, the right level to anonymize the data, but also to motivate the patient and to explain to the patient why it's important, and also to improve the patient care, because the physician can detect symptoms, he can put a diagnosis, a right diagnosis, he can refer to a specialist. That for us, and again, and the GP, general practitioner, is also, we know that the GP is really motivated to collect and to use the data, because he is managing many different types of patients. So for him, it's crucial.
That's very interesting. Now, as we're talking about this, we're really talking about data, and you and I both for so many years have been working in healthcare. We know that traditionally, the majority of the data that we've been talking about has tended to be purely clinical, diagnosis, prescriptions, disbursement, and so on. But now that, again, we're moving more into digital healthcare, and as you know, at Observia, we really focus on patient support. There's other data that's being generated. There's behavioral data, for instance. So this is a big, hairy question, but on one hand, I would say, what kinds of data do you think can be incorporated into this? And also, do you think that healthcare providers, including payers, are really addressing the behavioral components of health outcomes? And if you put this together, what kind of information do they need that can be supplied today that can help understand the behavioral component of healthcare?
If we get back to the first step of the data collection, many years ago, we started with a data collection system for claims. And we moved from claims to clinical data. It was a big evolution in the system, moving from claims to clinical data. But now, especially because when we are speaking about adherence, persistence, and so on, we have many data. But as you mentioned, it's also important to work with clinical data, but we need to integrate other data. And we have an evolution in Europe. Healthcare authorities are more and more speaking about patient-reported outcomes. I think it's a next big step for all of us. But we need to move forward with a system to collect more information from the patient. Patient-reported outcome is important, but we need to collect more data, and we need also to work with not only with data scientists, but we need to integrate, social dynamics perspective in analysis. So that's very important. But again, I think that with the big data, we have more and more data. We are able to segment the population of the patient in many dimensions. And we are able to isolate some group of patients, but it's just a descriptive analysis. If we want to move forward and to transform data into action with the right decision, we need to integrate, as you mentioned, behavioral information to help the physician to take the right decision. Otherwise, we will continue to isolate always the same group of patients with no efficacy of the different system, even if we are training the patient to improve the observed adherence and so on. I think that we need to use advanced analytics to train the physician and to be able to transform this data into action. But as you mentioned, we need to collect more data and also to work with not only data scientists, but with people, when I mentioned sociodynamics, I think it's very important. But again, collect more data, develop advanced analytics, and to work with physicians, and also to monitor. It's very important because the physician will use the data to transform the data into action. But we need to monitor the efficacy of the decision based on the segmentation using advanced analytics, integrating sociodynamic information. But I agree with you. It's not enough used for the moment.
Well, I'm certainly not going to argue with you about the importance of incorporating sociodynamic and behavioral expertise, since we kind of consider ourselves to be in that field. So here's a scenario for you. Can you imagine a situation? For instance, we're increasingly looking at DTX, digital therapeutics, and the arrival of these kinds of blended approaches around DTX with, let's say, a pharmaceutical, with a drug, along with an app, along with tracking devices, along with connected devices, right? And do you imagine a situation where we could actually combine, on a longitudinal basis for a patient, information coming from, let's say, a DTX app, connected devices, and the kind of disbursement claims and diagnostic data that you have been working with for decades now? Can you imagine that coming together while still maintaining data privacy?
Yes, definitely. And probably if it was a good idea many years ago, we were not able to do this. It was not only a question of techniques, but also to motivate people to secure the system. And now I think that, especially when we are discussing with a group of patients, when rare disease, for me, we need to find one type of patient. And again, rare disease is very interesting because we need more and more data. So to motivate a group of patients, the interest for the public health is huge. So we will have the support of the healthcare authorities to create a cohort of patients, and again, to collect the data at the physician level. So I think it's possible. We have the technique because we have more and more application now proposed to the patient, to for the telemedicine. And again, the COVID-19 changed our world because the telemedicine, for example, in France, were not used at all in the past. But due to the COVID-19, people are more, motivated to have this relationship with the physicians through telemedicine. So, due to telemedicine, we develop many digital secured systems. People, they have their apps, to take an appointment with the physician. So we have the system, and I think it's also interesting to develop a system with the patient in the center. With the application to take an appointment with a physician, to have this telemedicine interaction with the physician, and to collect the data. So I think that we can do. We have the system, and we know that it's already relevant in France, in the UK. So we have also in some countries, it's difficult. We know that in Europe, all the countries are not aligned on the same way, but for sure, UK, France, and UK, physicians are really open to work with behavioral information. And again, I think that yes, my answer is yes, we are ready as regards the techniques. We are able to enroll patients and also to enroll physicians and to obtain the agreement of the healthcare authorities. So for sure. Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right, and that's very encouraging. And I hadn't thought about it, but effectively maybe focusing in some kind of pilot situation in, let's say, a rare disease, where you could really get the patient advocacy groups involved. They tend to be much stronger and much more open to looking for ways of advancing treatment and enabling patients with their lifestyle. That maybe around something like that, to be able to show how DTX and apps and base data can be combined to help understand the disease is a good way forward.
Yes, and you know what? Why rare disease is also a very big opportunity for all of us, because we have many patients with who are detected too late in the system. So based on the clinical data with symptoms, artificial intelligence, we can create algorithm for physicians. And again, when we are thinking about the decision-making system, to help the physician to identify a patient at an early stage of the pathology and to enroll the patient in the system. Patient association will be more than happy because at the end, we propose a system to improve the quality of life and the healthcare. The physician will be also very happy because it's very difficult, especially for GP, because the GP is the first door of a patient in the system. So it's very difficult for some GP in 10 minutes, especially when the patient has no symptom or are not able to explain the symptom, to be supported by artificial intelligence, just to help the physician to prescribe the right exam or to refer the patient to a specialist and so on. And we are really speaking about the digital patient pathway when we're speaking about rare disease. So definitely, that's a very good idea. And at European level, many initiatives are sponsored by healthcare authorities as regards the rare disease. But definitely, yes, that's the strong idea to start with rare disease.
Very interesting stuff, Gilles. Now, I'm going to ask my last question, which is the same that I've asked to all of our guests, which is your own personal motivations. What really drives you? You're passionate about data, which can seem like a dry subject to many. And I know that you have a real strong personal drive to help patients through data. Can you share a little bit about from a personal perspective, how this gets you excited and how it got you excited in the first place?
Because you're right. I started many years ago when we already have lots of data, but it was not so useful for all the system. But now we have huge data We have data everywhere. We have a unique capacity to store a lot of data, to work with fantastic experts, but also it's what the final goal. The final goal is to improve the healthcare, so the patient life. So just for this goal, the motivation is great, but we have lots of data, lots of new startup companies sponsored by European government. So great. And due to the, I don't remember in the past to add exactly the same, environment. People are motivating lots of data. We have a data scientist, statistical advanced analysis. So that's a great moment. And as you mentioned, to develop also, new approach with behavioral analysis, that's fantastic. And because we're speaking about health, just for this, it's a great motivation.
Well, thank you so much, Gilles. It has been an enormous pleasure. You've painted some very interesting scenarios, raised some points that personally I'd never really thought about. And I'm sure that the viewers will likewise come away enriched with your enthusiastic and extremely pertinent perspective. So thank you very much.
Right. So, thank you to you, Kevin, because I really appreciate to have this opportunity to discuss with you. And for sure, I know that if we are able to work together in the future, it will be a great opportunity for me. And we'll be more than happy to move forward with Observia, because I'm convinced that our two dimensions, so the descriptive analysis with clinical data and your new approach of this system, it's fantastic. So it was a great chance for me today to have this opportunity to speak with you.
Thanks, Gilles.